the block between the knees or thighs for bridge. So we're already here. If you need to lower down and lift back up, you can meet us back. Zipper that pubic bone up. Now, as we stretch out either wrist at a time with the palm up, pulling back on the fingers, we're just going to pulse the hips up and down a touch. So the pelvis is staying neutral, meaning we're continuing to draw those two pelvic points in. We're just lowering the hips down and up, using the glutes to extend the hips. Switch hands, whatever wrist you haven't done yet. Stay long through the low back, so we're really waking up the hips and the glutes, that lower part of the core. Keep pressing into your whole feet. Bring the hands down and lower down one time all the way until we get that sacrum down. And from here, we're going to bring the block underneath the shoulder blades today. So this is different for our core work. Again, if you don't have the block, you're just going to do a regular set of our abs. If you have the block, it's going to come underneath the shoulder blades. So horizontally across both shoulder blades, and you'll land over the block with the hands behind the head as usual, elbows in toward the forehead or up toward the ceiling. So maybe we're leaning back over the block, maybe not quite, but our shoulder blades are definitely on the block. Let's take a breath in, feel the breath expand sideways into the rib cage. We're going to exhale through the mouth like you're breathing through a straw. At the end of that exhale, your ribs should slightly pull down. From that position, you're going to try lifting the scapula off the block if you can. It's a teeny tiny movement, and then we inhale and we lower the shoulder blades back onto the block. Relaxing a bit, and then we exhale through the mouth like we're breathing through a straw. At the end of that exhale, your ribs should pull down toward the body a little bit. We're going to lift off the shoulder blades, so we're working this really upper part of the core container. Inhale and lower. Exhale all the way to empty through your mouth. Lifting the shoulder blades up off the ground or off the block, wherever you are. Drawing those two pelvic points in. Inhale, lower down. Adding on, exhale through your mouth. Lifting off the block or off the ground, off the shoulder blades. Zipper that pubic bone up. Now we're going to pick up the right foot, a little hip flexion here. Hold that low back long. Right foot comes down. Inhale and lower. Exhale through your mouth all the way to empty. Lifting off the block or off the ground. Draw those two pelvic points in. We pick up the left foot, hip flexion, without the pelvis changing. Lower the foot. Inhale and lower. Adding on again. Exhale through your mouth all the way to empty. Really feeling these upper core muscles lift you. Hold the pelvic bowl still. Pick up the right foot. Now we're going to add the tiniest little turn to the right. Small amount of rotation from the center of the chest. Keep pulling the belly down. Bring it back to center. Lower the right foot. Inhale and lower. Exhale through your mouth like you're breathing through a straw. Lifting off the shoulder blades. Feel your ribs pull down toward the block. Now without changing the low back, pick up the left foot. Keep pulling the belly down. We slightly turn the chest to the left. Can you lift that left shoulder blade up a touch more off the block? Bring it back to center. Lower the left foot. Inhale and lower down. Take a big breath in and out. We're going to roll off the block and we will make our way all the way to quadruped. You could be on fists, you could be on palms. We will not need the block here. Let's feel triple S in our quadruped, tucking the toes. Take a breath in and feel the rib cage expand. Exhale through your mouth like you're breathing through a straw. At the end of your exhale, you're going to hover the knees without rounding the back. So nothing changes about the spine. And then land the knees lightly. Take a breath in. Exhale like you're breathing through a straw. At the end of that exhale, when you're all the way empty, you're going to hover the knees without protracting or rounding the back. And then tap down. So a couple more like that with your breath. It could be the tiniest little hover, the quickest little hover. But we want to sink it to the breath. We're working the whole core container, glutes or hips to shoulders. And now let's add on. After we hover, we're going to come to a modified side plank. So left foot will step back. You could stay here. You could do the arm. Now come back to quadruped. Take a breath in. Exhale and hover. Land the knees. Now we step the right foot back, modified side plank. You could have hand up or down. and then back. So we're adding a little alternating modified side plank. Exhale to hover, tap, and then your modified side plank, left foot back. So keep switching at your own pace. If you want to have blocks under the hands to make it a little bit of a smoother transition into that modified side plank, you could have a block under the hand. Good, back to quadruped. Now, if you want to give the wrist a break, you could either come to fist or even forearms. We're just going to cat-cow. And as you inhale and extend the spine, you might feel a stretch across the front of the core, the front of the body. Exhale, round the back, flexing the spine. Now let's think about our whole core, glutes to shoulders, as we come back to our neutral quadruped. Tucking the toes, press into the fingers, lift the ribs up. We're going to lift the hip creases straight up, down dog, staying strong in the shoulders, lifting the hips up. Nice shortened stance in our down dog. Heels are lifted, knees are bent. You can pedal the feet out, you can swivel, you can do whatever feels good. From your downward dog, we're going to keep the knees soft, hip creases high, walk the hands back for happy squat. Load the whole feet, so press into the big toes, pinky toes, and heels. Press the ground away as you rise up. Now grab a block if you have it at the back of the mat. If not, we're just going to hold our arms forward in the same way. So if we're holding the block, it's going to be palmed between the hands, and we're going to pick up the right foot and just squeeze the block a little bit between the hands for a little bit more activation. And then step it down, inhale. Exhale, squeeze the block. Pick up your left foot any amount. So we're just gonna walk or march our way forward. Exhale when we transition into that single leg balance. And then give that block a little bit of a squeeze as you do that. And you're gonna get more engagement around that whole core container from hips to shoulders. Okay, at the top of the mat, we're going to bring the block between the ankles at whatever width feels good. Again, if you don't have the block, you're just going to do this without it. Knees stay soft. Let's zipper that pubic bone up to the belly to keep that pelvic bowl upright. And we'll push down into the big toes, lift the heels any amount, and then land softly. Push down to lift. Just gently hugging the block between the ankles to get that extra activation up into the inner thighs, up into the pelvic floor, which is part of the core. Good. Lower the heels. Let's take the block out and just put it aside. Reach the arms forward and up. Shoulder blades lift way up. We hinge at the hips, long through the spine. Start in a quadruped. Now pause here. Let's feel neutral spine, like we've got a broom taped behind us. Right foot steps back for plank. Left foot steps back. Right knee slides in for quadruped. Left knee. So we just keep stepping it back, one foot at a time, and then back to quadruped. Our goal is to move as slowly as we need to keep that feeling of a broom staying behind our back. So we are targeting the whole core here, hips to shoulders. Now pause in your plank. You can have knees up or down as you lower, but let's take a breath in first. Exhale like you're breathing through a straw as you lower down. Now we're going to land all the way down, including the head. So you can let the head relax. Our arms will come into a wide V with the palms facing in toward each other. Think about your neutral pelvis. So we do want to have engagement in the glutes and the low belly to keep the pelvis neutral. And from this position, we'll lift the arms up, getting into that upper portion of the core around the shoulders, and then lower the arms. 2 more times. We lift the arms without changing the low back. Lower the arms. Lift the arms and try to lift the belly and the front of the ribs a touch. And then lower, hands under your shoulders. We're going to meet in quadruped. From your quadruped, let's step the right foot forward. Slide the left knee in. We're in our 90-90. And let's have our block nearby. Picture that broom behind you. Now we grab the block. It's going to come up overhead, whatever width you want to hold the block. And remember, that up overhead does not mean straight up, especially if that means doing this. So keep zippering up that front body. We're going to take a breath in. And just like we did when we walked forward, exhale and just squeeze the block. Inhale, take a breath, release that squeeze. Exhale, hug the block between your palms, give it a little squeeze. Now we're gonna add a rotation, inhale. Exhale, squeeze the block as you turn from the center of the chest, maybe an inch to the right, and then bring it back. Inhale. Exhale, hug the block between your palms, turn the chest without turning the pelvis, and inhale it back. Let's try a couple more at your own pace. Zippering the pubic bone up, engaging the hips to the shoulders. Good. Come back to center. Hands come down, quadruped. Now we're going to do that alternating modified side plank. So we'll step right foot back, whatever you want to do with the arm and leg, and then back to quadruped, left foot back, modified side plank. So we keep alternating. You are welcome to do this without the hover for this first round, or you can right away add the hover in between. Your choice. Long through the spine, really strong shoulders here, strong hips. Make your way back to quadruped. Left foot steps forward, have that block nearby. We're coming into that 90-90. Let's check in, ears over the shoulders, shoulders over the ribs, ribs over the pelvis. The block comes between the hands. We reach up overhead without arching the back. So feel that upward lift, firm in that right glute. Take a breath in. Exhale, hug the block between your hands. Inhale, breathe in, relax that hug. Exhale, give the block a little squeeze. Feel the arms and the shoulders heat up a little bit. Now we'll add that rotation. Inhale. Exhale, squeeze and turn from the center of the chest, maybe an inch to the left. Inhale back, relaxing that squeeze, get a little taller. Exhale, hug the block, turn the chest, and you'll keep doing that a couple more times. Stay firm in that right glute. That's going to help the pelvis stay steady. That's part of the core as well. Heading to quadruped, modified side plank. We're alternating. Maybe you're using blocks under the hands if you'd like. Left foot back, quadruped. Maybe we add a hover, right foot back. So you can adjust this or do any variation. Slow it down, add more steps in between. You can add extra challenge, but by weight bearing through the hands here, we're working that whole core, the whole core container, hips to shoulders. And then as you come to quadruped, you can head to a down dog. You can take a child's pose. You could do something in cat-cow. Wherever you'd like to end up for the next couple breaths. Focusing on that full, expansive inhale and exhale. Let's bend the knees, walk it forward into your bent knee forward fold. Now think strong legs as we rise up. Good, hands come down, take the block between the ankles again, whatever width you'd like. Let's focus on this lower part of the core. Push down into the big toes, lift and lower with control without locking out the knees. So you want to use this extra engagement up into the inner thighs and the pelvic floor to get a little bit more stability through the ankles and the hips. Now let's take the block out. Reach the arms forward and up. Lift those shoulder blades up. Exhale, hinge, quadruped. Imagine that broom taped behind your back and really try to hold it there. We're going to do left foot first this time. Left foot, right foot plank, left knee in, right knee in, quadruped. Any pace you'd like to do this, adjust as needed. Our goal is to be moving with that integration of the whole core, working to stabilize our triple S. We'll pause in our plank. You can have knees up or down, but we still want that triple S. We'll exhale like we're breathing through a straw as we lower down. Once you come down, bring your arms into that wide V, palms facing in, zipper the pubic bone up, almost like you're trying to lift the belly off the ground. And we're going to lift the arms without losing that engagement in the belly, and then lower the arms. Lift the arms, working the shoulders. Lower down one more time. Lift the arms, keep lifting the belly. Lower the arms, hands under the shoulders. Quadruped. Right foot steps through again for 90-90. You can tuck the left toes this time if you'd like. We're gonna rise up for our 90-90. Block is gonna come just in front of the chest this time. So however you wanna palm the block, we'll inhale, hinge forward like we've got that broom behind us. Exhale, squeeze the block between your hands and lift up. Inhale, hinge forward. Exhale, squeeze the block to come back up. So you can move at any pace. Let's work on this clean motion of hinging at that right hip with a long spine, pushing into that right foot to get you back up. We're just using that extra feedback of squeezing the block to get a little bit more engagement through the whole core. Head to quadruped. Set up with that triple S, like you're lifting your front body up toward a broom behind you. We slide the right toes back and then pause here. Zipper that pubic bone up. Float the right toes off the ground. We're gonna abduct. So right leg moves maybe an inch or so to the right. Keep your toes facing the ground. So now we're working hip abduction, which is the outer right hip working to move the leg away from the body. But we're holding the pelvis still. So a couple things to check for. Let's make sure we're not shortening or side bending the right side of our body. So just the leg is moving, but nothing else should be moving. So we're using that whole core to stabilize. Now stay with the right leg behind you. Bend the knee. You can lower it down as much as you need. Let's pulse the right hip into extension now. So we're staying, we should probably already feel some heat in that right hip. Now we're working a little bit more the back of the hip at the glute to extend the hip. Keep zippering that pubic bone up. Strong, stable shoulders. Lower it down to quadruped. Left foot steps forward. 90-90. We tuck the right toes. Lifting up, grab your block. Picture that broom behind you. Block comes right in front of the chest. Inhale, hinge forward without rounding. Exhale, squeeze the block to help get you up. Inhale, forward, long spine. Exhale, squeeze the block to get you up. Any pace you'd like to do this. Really push into that left big toe, especially on your way up. That's going to get that left glute a little bit more activated to help you get back up. Back to quadruped. Feel that triple S and really try to maintain the whole core integration here as the left toes come back. Zipper the pubic bone up. We float the toes, but keep it low. Abduction, we move slightly to the left with the toes facing the ground and then bring it back. This is really small. The outer left hip is working to abduct and the outer right hip is working to hold the right hip still. So notice what's happening on your stabilizing side. Is that right hip wiggling around a lot or that right thigh bone? Maybe that right shoulder doesn't feel like it's doing much. So think about that whole core. Glutes to shoulders. Stay with that left leg behind you. Bend the knee. You can lower it down as much as you need to. Let's all zipper the pubic bone to the belly. From here, we pulse. Tiny pulses using that left glute and hamstring. Hold the pelvis steady. So notice if you're arching the low back or the belly's dropping down or the ribs are drooping, and really hold that lift at the front of the core. Lower down. Take any option. You can cat-cow. You can take a child's pose or head to down dog. Checking in with your breath. Expanding into the ribs. From your down dog, let's walk it forward. Bent knee forward fold. Press into the feet. Reach the arms forward and up. We've got one more round like that. Let's grab the block. Place it between the ankles. Any width. Little hug here. Push down to lift. Land with control. So try not to lock out the knees. Holding that pelvis stable. Take the block out. And we'll reach the arms forward and up. Get those shoulder blades way up, hinging forward, pressing into the whole feet. Quadruped to start. Feel that neutral spine. Right foot back, left foot back, right knee in, left knee in. Keep going, any pace. Now imagine doing this with the block on your sacrum. You don't actually have to do it, but could you hold, hypothetically, something on your sacrum as you transition from plank to quadruped, stabilizing using that whole core. We're gonna hold our plank, knees can be up or down. Check in, lift the throat, the ribs, the belly. Exhale through your imaginary straw as you lower down. Arms come to that wide V, zipper the pubic bone up, so it almost will feel like tucking the tailbone under a touch. Lift the arms, keep some activity in the glutes. Lower the arms, stay long through the low back. Lift the arms, zippering the pubic bone up. Lower the arms. Lift the arms, lift the belly, lift the front of the ribs, long through the spine. Lower, and then hands under the shoulders. Let's lift into quadruped. Our right foot is going to step forward. Heading to a high lunge, we'll lift off this left knee and rise up. Pausing here, we won't need the block unless you want it. Zipper the pubic bone up. We're going to work, again, this lower part of the core container. Tap the left toes forward. And then abduct the left hip. Tap it back into your lunge. We tap forward, abduct the hip without changing the pelvis, and then back to your lunge. So your lunge can be really small. You can step back a couple inches. It's all about holding that pelvis steady while we strengthen the hips, and then using the core to just stabilize the spine as we move. Let's pause in our lunge, zipper up, and we'll turn to the side of the mat. So just keep turning to the side, externally rotate the hips, let's bend the knees, and then zipper up here. Our goal is to hold the ribs still, ribs over the pelvis, arms come out. Now you can have the palms at whatever place you'd like as we circle the arms. So we're gonna focus on the rotator cuff, so kind of right around the head of the arm bones, the top of the shoulders, but we don't want to be moving like this. So we're using that core, kind of webbing in or knitting that front body in so that we can just focus on the shoulders. Okay, let's turn back to the front of the mat. Take a little quadruped. Now, tuck the toes, big breath in. Exhale, hover the knees. Tap the knees down, inhale. Exhale, hover the knees. Good, knees come down. We step left foot forward, heading into our high lunge. Lift off that right knee. You can shorten the stance as much as you want. Zipper up, let's picture that broom behind us. We push into the left foot, bring the right foot forward, abduct the right hip, and then bring it down. Back to your lunge, land softly. Push into that left foot, abduct the right hip, and then bring it back. This could be very small, really slow. We're focused on that pelvic stability and our hip stability. So this lower part of the core container, push into the foot. Draw those two pelvic points in. Stay in your lunge. We're going to turn to the side of the mat. Externally rotate the hips. Picture that broom behind you. Zipper that front body up. Arms come out. Circle the arms, focusing on the shoulders. Check if anything else is moving. Can you feel that your low back is arching as you do this, or the upper back, the ribs? So really think about that whole core stabilizing. Turn it back to the front of the mat. Your choice, whatever feels good here. Cat cow, child's pose or puppy pose to give the wrists a break, or maybe a down dog, some kind of movement there. From your down dog, let's soften the knees, walk it forward toward the front of the mat. Big bend in the knees, let's reach the arms forward and up. Okay, from the front of our mat, we're gonna step our right foot back into a warrior two. Zipper that pubic bone up. Now I want you to think of that pelvic bowl staying upright, active in the legs and the glutes, like we're pushing the ground away. Hands will come behind the head so that we can focus on the core. Inhale and side bend. So we're just using our core to side bend. We don't have the arms to lead us. And then lift it back up. Take a breath in. Exhale, side bend toward the front leg. We're using the core to control this movement, this lateral flexion. And then bring it back up. Inhale. Exhale, reverse. Draw those pelvic points in. Good. Bring it back up. Inhale. Exhale, side bend forward. We're using the core. Good. Lift back up. Now from here, we're going to turn all the way to the back of the mat. Feet come about hips distance apart into a chair or a hip hinge. So we're going to hinge forward. You could have hands on the thighs. And let's pause here. We're going to alternate lifting one heel at a time, or alternate sliding one foot back at a time. Holding the pelvis steady, working the hips. If you'd like to add the shoulders, you add opposite arm reaching forward. And then we really have to work the whole core to stabilize more because we're hinging the whole spine forward against gravity and adding more load by moving the arms. Now step your right foot back. We're going to turn to the right. Now we're facing the other side of the mat. Arms can come out wide. We're going to side lunge here with the arms wide. Think about wings here. Your wings start at the upper back. We want to click the scapula, those shoulder blades, onto the back of the ribs without arching. So zipper that whole front of the body up. Good. Stay facing the side of your mat. We just turn the right toes out now. Left toes can turn in a little bit. Bend the knee, zipper up. We're in warrior two, hands behind the head. Hold the pelvis still. We reverse using the core. Bring it back. Exhale, side bend forward using the core. Bring it back up. Inhale. Exhale, side bend. So we're not sinking. We're staying lifted. Inhale it up. Exhale it forward. Lift it back up. We're turning all the way to the back of the mat. Come to that hip hinge. So maybe hands come to the thighs for more support. Maybe you don't need it. Alternate the heel lifts to start, or go right to sliding one foot back at a time. Holding the hips in this hinged position, keeping the ribs lifted. Maybe we add opposite arm. Strong, stable hips. And if you're adding the arm, we're getting that whole core container, all the way from hips to shoulders. Step that left foot back. Keep turning to the left. We're facing the other side of the mat. Arms come wide. Click the scapula together. Side lunge. Now this time, if you want to add some pulses of the arms, like you're really pulsing those wings, clicking those scapula in, retracting them a little bit. Your choice. Working the hips. Let's turn it back to the front of the mat for quadruped. And we will belly roll. You can belly roll or cat-cow or even just wag side to side. Anything that feels good.